The Soulsborne series is considered by most to be a very difficult series of games to beat, as they are. Bloodborne in particular, as it actively encourages aggressive playstyles while putting the player against very fast and brutally strong enemies, really testing your dodging skills and reflexes more so than the Souls games ever did. This game is considered to be hard enough as it is, requiring a lot of respawns to beat. But what if you were to play Bloodborne with only one life, where if you die, your character is permanently dead and you literally lost the entire game? No respawns for you. This is known as an Iron Man run, a term which is very similar to nuzlocking in Pokemon, which basically instills permadeath rules in your character for the whole game, requiring you to be far more cautious and strategic with your playstyles and decisions. In this video, I'll be attempting an Iron Man run in Bloodborne. The only rules of this run are, no summoning to help me out. I recently did an Iron Man run in Dark Souls 3, it made it very far without a single death, but Bloodborne is not the same. With different mechanics and an arguably steeper learning curve, I haven't played this game in over a year, and as a result I'm not as skilled at this game as I used to be. This Iron Man will really push me to my limits, but how far will I make it in Yharnam? Will I succeed? Let the nuzlocke begin! So the game begins and I choose the Violent Past Origin as it's the best one for the build that I'll be using. The build will be somewhat similar to the one that I used in my Dark Souls 3 run. I'll focus on being tanky to give my character a much larger room for error. This is especially important as in an Iron Man run, you don't have too much room for error. One fatal mistake and you'll be dead. Permanently. I had many instances in this run where I almost died even with my huge health pool. Had it not been for that, this run would have been so much harder to do. As for the stats, get vitality to 50 ASAP. Then after that I get my strength up to 25, which is the soft cap for that. Then I get my skill up to 25 also, which is more than enough to deal good damage in this game. You will have enough levels at the end of the game to where you could go into Arcane or Bloodtinge if you wanted to, but that's up to you. I was a bit nervous playing this game after over a year, but I quickly relearned the controls and managed to kill the Blood Wolf in the clinic. This was close, but I just had to time my power attack correctly. After slogging my way through the first few enemies in Yharnam, I make it to the Hunter's Dream. I get my pistol, which I really don't use that much in a run, but more importantly I pick up the Saw Cleaver, which will be the main weapon of the run. It's fast and easy to use and it's a pretty good quality weapon. With the starting health of this character, I can beat every mob here without too much trouble. As long as you don't blindly rush in and be methodical, you can handle pretty much everything. It's a good idea to draw out groups of enemies one by one to eliminate their numbers advantage. Before fighting the first boss, I combed over the available areas in Yharnam first. Man, I was too chicken to attempt to cut down this item in fear of falling, especially in permadeath runs. Heights really do give me anxiety. But the new armor I get is really good. What is this? Oh, this is gross. My character is literally shoving his fist up this pig's booty. Ew. With that, I am now at the first boss fight against a cleric beast. This boss is easy if you have the right class for it. The noble scion class is much tougher to use as it's got a lot less health. Though if you're struggling you can always go back to the Hunter's Dream to upgrade your weapon, which I didn't even need to do for this fight. You can stagger the beast by throwing cocktails at its face or hitting its weak spot. It's easy to circle strafe and roll under it. After that easy fight I upgrade my weapon and go all in vitality when I level up. Now I'm tanky for this part of the game. I can easily make my way to the next boss fight. Father Gascoigne, or whatever he's called. I always used to call him Father Gaston. This is much harder than the last boss fight, but my high amount of health allows me to take hits and safely heal before my health gets too low. The first half of the fight is not too hard, as you can stagger him and if you're good, you can stun him with your gun. The second stage is dangerous, but if you save up your blood vials and slowly but surely chip at his health, you'll win. Now I grind up my bloodstone shards to get my cleaver to +3, so now it's pretty strong. But I don't bother with Old Yharnam as it's an optional area and it's not even that necessary. I'd only be risking myself by going there. The enemies in the cathedral ward hit hard, and even with my tank build, they can destroy you if you're not careful. Vicar Amelia is next, and this boss is much easier than I remember it being. It's not hard to just circle strafe and always get around the thing. The attacks aren't too tough and they are televised, which gives you a lot of time to react. Before going to the Hemrick Charnel lane, I wanted to clear out this area to get some more bloodstone. This NPC here was a big pain as he can constantly dodge and spam their blood tinge weapon, chipping away at your health. This took a while, but by saving up all my blood vials, I whittled them down eventually, though it was not easy. Definitely do not approach this thing. God, I've still got bad memories from my first playthrough when I was at this point. Now that my cleaver is at +4, the next area was not challenging. Even with no attack investments, I deal enough damage to wreck everything here. Do be aware of this one enemy who tries to push you off the ledge here. I lost a permadeath run once because of that, because I was not prepared for that. Now I fight the Witch of Hemwick, and this was mostly easy, though I did take a very large amount of damage at one point. It's not threatening, for the most part, but the Witch's magic attacks, especially the one that stuns you, could potentially insta-kill you. But I managed to get through this. After that I returned to Yosefka's clinic, and I killed this human NPC, then proceed with the main game. I almost died at this point, when I got hit directly by this cannon. I got hit as I was jumping, which made me take even more damage, and I almost got completely one-shot from full health, which is crazy, considering how high my health is at this point. But thankfully I'm still alive. Man, these snake enemies are a bit tough as they deal a good amount of damage, but just like most of the other threats I've encountered, just take it slow and heal up and you'll be fine. It's time to fight the Shadows of Yharnam now. This fight's easy if you're prepared for it. The best way to beat them is to try and separate them and focus on KOing one of the shadows first. I use the big tombstone in the middle to shield myself from the ranged enemy while killing the other one. The fight gets tougher at the end, but it's still not that hard. To be honest, this game is a similar level of difficulty as Dark Souls 3, is much easier than the other Souls games. It's at this point where I'm now at a whopping 50 vitality, at which point I stop increasing it, as 50 is a soft cap for health. You could keep on going past 50, but the returns are so diminished at that point, so I put the rest of my skill points into strength, as the cleaver has slightly better scaling with that stat than it does with skill. I move on, and this time I decided to go to Castle Canehurst, but this was not a good idea, as I barely scraped dying at the entrance. These bug alien things hit so hard and are awkward to dodge, and they're really fast and can chase you. This was one of the tensest moments of the run, but I was just glad to leave this place alive. I didn't even bother exploring the castle, as it's an optional area, I just left. Speaking of really close calls, I also got uncomfortably close to dying to these insect things, as they deal so much damage with their grab attacks and can easily inflict frenzy. I would recommend avoiding these guys if possible. Kill this NPC by just dodging, then chaining loads of attacks to stagger them. Then after that I fight the vacuous spider. Now you have to be careful against this thing, as the later stages can get tough. I took my time and made sure to kill all the little spiders one by one first, then I focus on Rom. The final phase was a hard part, as the magic attacks hit very hard, but once all the little spiders are dead, Rom on its own isn't too tough. The Yargul village is where things really start to escalate in difficulty. The big alien creatures are very threatening, so I just run straight past them to avoid them. Especially this guy here with the big laser beam. Also at this point I got my strength stat to 25, which is the soft cap for that, so it's now more efficient to increase my skill stat to make my cleaver more powerful. One very dangerous fight to prepare for is this one here, where you have to fight 3 hunters at the same time, which is not easy, especially if they all attack you at the same time. To do this, I had to focus on one of them at a time, and always go in a circle to keep them moving. The guy with the cannon is especially dangerous if he hits you with it. It deals huge damage. This was not easy, but if you take your time and whittle one of the hunters down, the fight gets much easier. After you kill one of the hunters, the other 2 are much easier to handle. The rest will go down. Before going to the next boss, I farmed the werewolf enemies in the village to get some blood chunks so I can get my cleaver up to +9. Once I do that, I demolish the Dark Beast Parl, which was surprisingly easy. It doesn't have a lot of health. I think you're supposed to do this boss fight earlier, or something, I'm not sure. But anyways, after that I completely destroyed the Blood-Starved Beast, which is no challenge at this point. Next boss fight is the One Reborn, and this was definitely more dangerous than the other ones, as the sheer damage and health was noticeably higher this time around. I start off by killing all the casters above it, which by the way really reminds me of the Tower Knight boss from Demon Souls. That was such a good boss fight. I took a lot of damage, but eventually I figured out its attack pattern and managed to kill it, though it took a bit longer than usual, and I used a lot of blood vials here. I went to this nightmare area afterwards, not realising that it was actually optional. There's not much loot in here. The enemies that inflict frenzy are very annoying. I know that these enemies can become a massive threat towards the end of the game, as frenzy is very dangerous. I had to sneak up in this thing and quickly rush it. And that right there was the hardest part of this area, as the boss fight here was not a challenge. Just attack its head while dodging and it dies. But now I'm at the nightmare of Memphis. I have finally entered the final area of the whole game. Yeah, this game is definitely way shorter than any of the Souls games, but now the end is near. However, this area is also the most challenging of the game, with very dangerous enemies. The first part of this nightmare is already quite tough, as you have to take cover or you'll instantly get hit by frenzy. All the while, you have to fight these monsters that are fast and can hit hard. Then after that there's these giants. One of them almost one-shotted me from full health with a rock, which was so clutch. Had I not been at full health then, I would have probably died. The next part with the spiders was not so hard, as long as you funneled the mob to slowly take them out. And while this NPC here is annoying, he doesn't have a lot of health. I did try to use Ludwig's Holy Blade, but to be honest, I didn't like it as much as my Saw Cleaver, even though most people say it's the best quality weapon in the game. I like the fast speed of the Saw Cleaver, and I'm comfortable just sticking with my starter weapon. It's definitely good enough for the whole game. Moving on to the next boss fight, Mikolash, and this guy can be a massive pain if you're not prepared. This is where the max fatality stat really comes in handy. This guy's arcane attacks are very threatening, and can completely destroy you if you're at a lower vitality stat. To be prepared, I changed my equipment to specifically resist arcane damage, and thank God I did. In the final phase, he uses this homing attack, and if you're unlucky, you can get hit by multiple projectiles, dealing massive damage. He sometimes spams these attacks, not letting you heal up on time. Look at what happened here! Oh my god, that was so close. I genuinely thought I died here, but then I was so surprised and relieved at the same time to find out that I was still alive. This was definitely the closest near miss I had in this run. I must have been literally a few HP away from dying, but after healing up I managed to finish off Mikolash. Now the end really is near. I'm almost finished. I know there's that optional area to stop the Source of the Frenzy and to get the Bloodstone Rock, but cause I'm a bitch, I decided to just skip that as it's optional and just too risky. Hell, the mere act of jumping over to that window on its own can easily cause you to fall to your death. Then there's the enemies there that can easily inflict frenzy on you, and besides, soon enough I can just buy a Bloodstone Rock anyways by using Insight. After all, I know that I'll only be using the Saw Cleaver for the rest of the game, and I only need one rock. I'm in the final stretch now. After killing the last few obstacles that get in my way, I've got to destroy the Source of the Nightmares. After this, the game will be over. Being so close to the finish line, I can't let my guard down. Well, that was a bit anticlimactic. Marco's Wet Nurse wasn't that hard. To be honest, having 50 vitality and 20 blood vials is really strong. It makes it so easy to just trade damage as you've got so much healing power. This boss's attacks are a bit hard to dodge at times, but it didn't even matter that much. Eventually I came out on top, and with that the nightmare is finally slain. And now, the game's over. That was short. I skipped most of the optional content as it just wasn't necessary, and most of the game was not that hard, especially since this was my first playthrough in such a long time. Well, I guess it's time to talk to German, and to end this Iron Man for good. But to be honest, the last boss was pretty anticlimactic. I could just end the game here straight away with an automatic win, by just accepting Gehrman's offer, causing the credit screens to roll up. But you know what? I'm gonna have one last battle. This is the final boss of this run. And god, this was a true challenge. Very fitting for my last battle. For the first time, I had to use my homeward bone to escape a boss fight. And now that I've returned, this time I'm going to end this run. It's all or nothing. With everything in the line, will I succeed in the true final battle? There's only one way to find out. I'm dead. I died. For the first time in this run, I finally died. And with that, the run has now ended. In failure. The final boss was the hardest boss in this game by a huge margin, putting all the other ones to shame. Its attacks are so hard to dodge and I just wasn't able to stagger him properly. In the end, I died to his fast attacks and his gun, which is hard to avoid due to his shotgun spread. So yeah, the Iron Man run is over. However, in spite of that, I decided to give Gehrman one more try, seeing as in my Dark Souls free run, I did allow one revive and one revive only with the Ring of Sacrifice. I wanted to have one more fight against his final boss. Though I still failed the Iron Man run, if I win this time I can at least redeem my failure in the final attempt. Well, that attempt was much easier than the last one. I managed my health a lot better this time, and was able to stagger him twice. I was definitely able to complete this Iron Man run this whole time, but I guess that last attempt I must have just slipped up, which kinda was my fault I guess. But regardless, the game is now over, and while I did die once at the end, I was surprised at how far I made it through the game. Reflecting back on all the steamrolls and all the close calls, this game was a blast, feeling so similar to Dark Souls 3, but so different at the same time, with a much greater emphasis on aggression and dodging. Now, I know that people are going to ask me about the Moon Present's secret true final boss fight, and to be honest, I didn't know how to trigger it, and I didn't want to use a guide. So yeah, Gehrman was a hard enough final boss fight anyways. While most casual gamers harp on about how hard this game is, with a little bit of skill and planning, you too can beat this game with Iron Man rules without too much trouble. And with that, the video is now over. I hope you all enjoyed this new kind of video. I know most of you guys watch me for my Pokemon content, but I do want to make content about other games as well, and not only Pokemon. I'll most likely revisit the Soulsborne series at some point, but next time I'll be doing another Pokemon video. However, this time I've got something different planned. Stay tuned for that. Anyways, bye bye! See you later!